Hi again. So just like all of my videos, at least most of them, this is being shot on my camera phone, or my phone camera, whatever, um, and just done with one take straight away. Um, Basically, if I misspeak or whatever, I most likely won't be editing it or doing a retake, and um, primarily most of my videos are not scripted. I just kind of pick up the camera and just go with it. So it is what it is. Maybe eventually I might, take more time into editing and like um, using text to correct times when I'm using text to correct the times when I misspeak or whatever. Uh, Anyways, that being said, this video is basically a follow-up to that last video that was just posted with the hard drives making the squealing sounds. And that video was essentially a follow-up to the video posted before that, which was the channel update video. And in the channel update video, I had mentioned how I was having trouble with hard drives. And then in the video after that, which is what I just mentioned, is a video of me playing the noise that the hard drives are making. What I'll do is I'll put in that video real quickly so you don't have to go back and find it because it's a real short one right here, and then I'll come back and tell you what I have to say because things have changed and I've discovered exactly what the problem was. Alright, so here's the sound of the hard drive, and then I'll tell you what I did to have to fix this, what I did to solve the problem. Right. So that's the sound the hard drives are making, like a squealing sound. Um, Initially, in one of the videos, I had stated that it was two 4 terabytes and a 2 terabyte when it turned out to just be one 4 terabyte and one 2 terabyte. I just thought that it was all three because when the noise was happening, I pulled out the first 4 terabyte that I had bought, thinking that because it was the first one, it was older, maybe slightly older, that maybe it was the one that was the problem. So I took out the bottom hard drive, the one you see down there. Right, so I took that one out and the noise stopped happening. A little while later, this noise came back. I just assumed that it was the other 4 terabyte because I bought them shortly around the same time frame, and the sound stopped happening. Then the sound came back again, and that's when I discovered that it was a 2 terabyte, so I assumed that it was all three. But in reality, it was actually the bottom 2 terabyte, the bottom 4 terabyte, and the top 2 terabyte. And the problem turned out to be not specifically an issue with Seagate hard drives like I thought it was, because in the one past video I had actually stated that I was having problems with Seagate hard drives, and that when I was doing research on the problem that I was having, I noticed a lot of other people complaining about Seagate hard drives, so I just assumed my issue was with Seagate hard drives. And what led me to believe that is all three of these are Seagates. And the reason why I like to buy them is because they're thinner, and they leave more room to breathe in between the hard drives. That's why I like the Seagate drives. They're not as fat as your average hard drive. Anyways, I have two Seagates back there. Those are laptop drives, and the one with the red X on it I assumed I was having trouble with it, and it turned out not to be the drive, so now I have to erase that red X or mark over it or something. And then there was these two, the Seagate here and the one that's underneath it, which is also a Seagate. All right, so that seemed, to be an awful lot of drives that were having trouble in this machine. And the thing is, okay, these drives were working just fine for months before they started making that squealing sound. And that's what led me to think that it was a hard drive failure and, nothing more. So, because I really needed to get data off these drives, I purchased an external 2 terabyte drive, but that was only good enough to grab the data that I needed to save because I thought these drives were going on me. But I, later on down the road, had to get myself another 2 terabyte when this one up here started going, because that 2 terabyte has like software on it that I need to use for like making my radio program and stuff. Excuse me. So when that drive died, when I thought that drive died, I ordered another one. I RMA'd these, so while waiting for, that whole situation to be resolved, I picked up another drive. And this is the way that they come from Amazon. Like that. The drive is underneath there. This is the 2 terabyte that I bought. Okay, so that's how they come. That's how all the drives have arrived that I've purchased from Amazon, in boxes like that. So I kind of thought that maybe the problem may not necessarily have been Seagate drives specifically, even though I was having trouble with these drives. However, that being said, those were used drives, and I don't know, whether or not they were, they weren't necessarily known good drives. Let's just say that. But I did start having trouble also with this one, which is not a Seagate. All right, and that led me to think that, okay, maybe it's not just Seagate. That's when I thought maybe it was how these were being shipped out, because they're just put in like a thin envelope kind of bag that has bubble wrap on it, and it's relatively thin, so it doesn't exactly it's not a nice big fat bubble wrap. It doesn't really protect the drives as well as I'm concerned. So I thought maybe the problem was how the drives were being shipped. All right, now that brings us up to when I contacted Seagate and had them ship me out new drives, and I RMA'd the ones that I have because I thought they were no good. And this is how it arrived. Okay. It was here we are. All right, so here we go. Sorry about that. All right, so it was pretty well crushed all the way around, as you see, right? Okay. So all right, so I thought, that's great. That drive may not work. Look at how crushed the box is, right? And I put that drive in the machine, and sure enough, it made the same squealing sound as those are. Or were. Those were. Okay. Which is now, of course, I was pissed because I thought, great, they just sent me a drive to replace the ones that weren't working, and it got damaged in shipping. Where am I? Okay, but here's the thing. I had ordered, 3 drives, and that was one of them. The other one, this other one here, this box came to me in much better condition. Not crushed, looks fine. Alright, so basically what I'm saying is that I had better hopes for that drive because it looked fine on the box, and I put it in the machine, and that drive also made the squealing sound, and I just about lost my mind. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. What is going on here? And the only thing I could assume is that they were getting damaged in shipping, but the thing about that, okay, is when hard drives are shipped out, from the factory, when they're in like their factory state, let's say, they're in a position. They're usually in a parked position, and the parked position, what I mean by that is the heads that read the platters, the arms, right? Those are like locked, so they're not able to swing over and be hitting the platters while the drive is in shipment. Okay, so it really shouldn't be the case that drives being shipped in boxes like that would damage the drives. It really shouldn't be happening. Now the box that was crushed, that one, I didn't really have high hopes for. But here's the thing. How could all of these drives give me different trouble, right? And the new ones too. Plus the ones that I had in there. All making relatively, similar. Let me back that up. The new ones were making the same sound as the ones that I was trying to replace. These were giving me different trouble. These here, they would show up. I could see it, but if I tried to write any data to them, they would like disappear, or I would have trouble with them. So I don't know if there's just something wrong with these drives, and that's just the way it is, or whatever. But these drives were working, and then all of a sudden they weren't working right, and one of them even started making this squealing sound for a little bit. And this drive here, it made more like a small, very light humming sound, like it was trying to spin, but it really couldn't, or something like that, which started leading me to believe that it was a power supply issue. And that's where this entire thing leads up to. I decided, just to verify what the heck was going on, I went to another computer in the house, in the living room, and grabbed a known good hard drive, put it in the machine here, and it made the same exact squealing sound. A drive that had not had any problems whatsoever. And it didn't go through like crazy shipping or anything. It went across the living room or across the house, whatever. So basically what I'm saying is, seeing as how a known good hard drive was now making the same sound as all the other drives, I had to, I had to put it into perspective that clearly it was the computer and not the hard drives. The only thing that led me, that I could think of is that it was the power supply. The only thing that's weird, right, is why the hard drives were working for so long and then all of a sudden weren't. What I discovered was the problem was not necessarily the hard drive specifically, but the adapters. What I mean by that is I was using this SATA to SATA splitter to power 2 hard drives. Just like what you see going on there. The splitter. Alright? So these were, in there like that. And they were connected to this SATA power port right there. It wasn't off over there initially. I pushed it off over there when I wasn't using it any longer. So one of two things. It's either this splitter itself stopped working after, 6, 7, 8 months, maybe much longer than that. For a while, like it was working just fine, and then all of a sudden I started having trouble with the drives. Alright, so it was this splitter that I had here, And then I had a Molex to SATA splitter for the other drive to make 3 drives. It was similar to this one. It's the one that's down there, closest to the machine on the inside, right in there. All right, that one. It goes from there to the single SATA right here. All right, so that's the line. What I replaced was this splitter. What I replaced was this splitter right here with a Molex to dual. So 2 splitter from the Molex. So now what I'm using is 2 Molexes instead of a SATA and a Molex, as opposed to how I had it initially. Now, all that being said, one of 2 things is going on here. Either the adapter I was using, that it was connected to here, that I just showed you, failed, or maybe, possibly, I'm not 100% sure of this, but maybe possibly this line, which I think is here, that one, I believe it also, I'm not certain of this, I'd have to really dig down deep to find it, but I think it goes up and then feeds into the DVD burner here, the 2 SSDs right here, and then this is my LED strips power and controller, which plugs into a SATA down here. I'm not 100% certain, I can't remember because it's been a while since I've built the computer, but it may be possible that this was also on the same line that was feeding all of that other stuff, and maybe after a while having the hard drives connected to that was just too much. Maybe. I just don't understand why it didn't start messing up immediately, why it took so long for that to happen. So that leads me to think that after a while, the splitter that I was using just stopped working or stopped functioning properly. Because the drives would show up and they would quote-unquote work, but they would make a squealing sound, or sometimes they would just disappear. Windows was telling me that there was hard drive errors, and all along there was nothing wrong with the hard drives. It was the damn splitter I was using the entire time. So yeah, now I can put the side panel back on my computer, and I'm still using the same drives that I was using all along, which makes me happy, because, you know, having to RMA stuff just kind of sucks. And yeah. So basically, I guess if there's a lesson to learn from this, if anybody out there has had hard drive problems, if you still happen to have those hard drives, if you didn't get rid of them already, or if you're currently having hard drive problems, don't get rid of your hard drives right away. Hold on to them, because it may not actually be your hard drives. It could be your power supply specifically, or it could be something like in my case where the splitter that you're using connected to power supply is, I guess, low quality or garbage, or I'm not sure what happened. I really don't know why this splitter was causing me so much trouble, why it worked for months when I first connected all this thing up, and then over time it just started not working correctly. Well, now I'm using the Molex one, which is funny because initially I didn't really want to use that Molex one. But so far so good. I'm back to having my 3 drives again, the 2 terabyte, the 4 terabyte, and then the 4 terabyte backup. It basically all came down to the power supply, or, well, in this case, the connectors, the adapters. So, if you're having hard drive trouble and it sounds just like the sound that you heard here earlier, in either in the other video or in this one here, then don't automatically assume it's your drives. It may very well be the power supply or your connectors. I mean, that does make sense. The power supply is the heart of everything. And I guess if the drives weren't getting the right amount of power or intermittent power or whatever the hell was going on, I don't know. It was causing some sort of havoc with the drives nonetheless. So there it is. My drives are working again. I can put the side panel back on. I do have another video coming up eventually about this power supply because there is something interesting about it. So stay tuned for that. That'll come up as soon as I can get it up. And yeah, there it is. And as always, thank you for watching.